Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session on systematic literature searching in MEDLINE on EBSCOhost. So in this 60-minute webinar, you'll be introduced to the advanced search concepts for searching MEDLINE as we look at developing a complex search strategy incorporating wildcards at proximity search operators, running a combination of free text and mesh or medical subheading searches. Okay, and we'll be using a particular framework which I'll introduce you to as we go through this session this morning. So for those who've not met me before, who've not attended one of my webinars, I'm Richard Crooks. I work for the EBSCO Customer Training Services team. I'm actually based in the northwest of England, but also manage training for the UK, for the Nordics, and also Africa as well. So I have colleagues who cover those territories. So thanks for joining this session. By all means, of course, feel free to contact me post-session at rcrooks@ebsco.com with any follow-up. But obviously, as we go through this webinar, I'll take any comments or questions as they appear in the Teams chat. Please bear with me as I don't have a colleague monitoring that, so I may not reply immediately, but I'll do my best to do so. So I hope that by the end of this session, you'll be able to plan an appropriate search strategy using the PICO clinical framework, and you will be introduced to other frameworks that are out there, and I'll reference that as we go through this initial introduction. You'll be able to form title and abstract searches on the native EBSCO interface, obviously specifically for MEDLINE. And also you'll be able to use the mesh or medical subheadings for authoritative search results, and also combine the free text or title abstract searching with the mesh search using the search history in MEDLINE on the current interface. You will also be able to find further training resources in support of systematic searching via various sites as well that we provide access to. So that's what you're expecting from this session. Some of you may have attended this before, and it's maybe a refresher for the others. This may be quite new to you. So just to begin with then, some initial considerations in the context of a systematic literature search. So first of all, we need to consider, why am I searching? This almost goes without saying. What is the purpose for it? Is it what it's in support of? Of course, you may be asked to find certain range of articles. Maybe you're supporting a critical appraisal club. Maybe it's a general literature search, etc. What am I searching as well? What are you looking for? What kind of content or coverage are you expecting to focus on for this search? And of course, how am I searching? Which resources? What limitations? And that could include the kind of resources you go to, the databases you're using. Obviously, we're focusing on MEDLINE this morning. And then there are the actual types of searches. We need to determine the type of search we are going to conduct, and that will influence how we approach it, etc. So it could be a simple lookup. You may need to identify one or a small number of research articles that meet a narrow set of criteria. This could be in relation to a retrieval of specific facts, for example, incidence prevalence of disease conditions. It could be in relation to a specific research question, and so on. It could be more exploratory. So you want to learn, or the user wants to learn about a concept or body of research, including its characteristics. So the terms, the volume of evidence, type of research. So it could also be a general scoping search as well. And then it could be more systematic, which is kind of where we focus on today, to identify all records, or you might say a majority of records on a specific topic through an unbiased, transparent, and reproducible search. Okay, so it could be at that level, which we're going to look at today. As we look at approaching the systematic search, we'll take those four mentioned points into consideration. So how we structure it, etc. So we are looking at, of course, identifying what's out there. So the first thing is, in this context, we have a specific question that we're going to review. So we're going to understand the research question. And as we consider this, we also choose the most appropriate framework for our search. Now, I'm going to be using PICO in this example, but there are others like CocoaPop, Spice, and I'll share some more in a moment, that are out there that may be more pertinent, more relevant to your actual search. We would then, of course, devise the appropriate search strategy, search MEDLINE. That means we need to identify synonyms or related terms for each concept that we enter. So initially, free text terms. We would search for each concept one at a time. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we'll look at forming a title and abstract search for those synonyms, related terms, etc. And then we'll also look at the use of the medical subheadings from MEDLINE as well to combine those. We'll also factor in the use of wildcards and proximity search operators, so truncation, etc. You may know that MEDLINE and SynL and EBSCOhost use the near within proximity operators, and we'll introduce that to you if you're not familiar with those features. Okay, and then of course we'll combine the concepts, the free text and the subject searching, the mesh terms using Boolean logic, typically the and or options there. Okay, so this is how we're going to approach it in this session. So as I indicated, there is a research question, which is, in patients at high risk for gallbladder dysfunction, is a HIDA scan compared with an ultrasound more accurate in diagnosis? So already you can see I've identified some of the key terms, the elements that we need to search for. So patients at high risk for gallbladder dysfunction, we've got HIDA scan, we've got a comparison with ultrasound, and they've got the goal, the outcome, if you like, of accuracy in diagnosing this condition. So that kind of lends itself to our consideration for what framework we should be using. So you can see here a list of a number of frameworks here, frameworks that have been identified by Andrew Booth et al. At Shire at the University of Sheffield in England. So they produced, or Andrew and his colleagues produced, a paper published in the BMJ of 38 variants of frameworks. I previously counted 25, but there's probably more than 38 now. But some of these you may recognize, you may have used yourself. Be interested to hear from you. If you have used any of these, it'd be good to know in the Teams chat which ones you've used, or if there are others that maybe not be so common that you use, would be good to know as well. So you see here we've got COCOPOP, which relates to the condition, the context, population group. We've got Eclipse there, PICO, which unlike PICO relates to exposure as opposed to intervention. You've got PICOT, which includes the factor of time, and you've got SPICE and SPIDER there. So some of these are maybe more of a non-clinical aspect, some more clinical. And of course, PICO is a clinical framework that we'll be using. So I'd recommend, once you get the slide deck, or if you've, are aware of this paper, to look at it again, because it does give you more detailed information on those frameworks and a description of them, as well as the various elements, and you can identify which ones may be more appropriate. Of course, I've not listed them all there, just a sampling of some of those frameworks, just for illustration. Once we've decided a framework, and as I said, we will be using PICO, which is obviously commonly used. I'm sure most of you have used that before. We would then devise the strategy considering the elements, the initial elements, the population group, which, as we saw, relates to gallbladder dysfunction, patients at risk of gallbladder dysfunction, the intervention, which is HIDA scan, a comparison with ultrasound, and of course, accuracy relates to outcome relates to diagnosis. So we've got gallbladder dysfunction, gallbladder disease, gallbladder inflammation on the second row there in the first column. These are the synonyms. These are the terms that we could be using. Basically, we're trying to identify what do healthcare professionals, researchers, authors use to identify this particular condition. Intervention, of course, HIDA scan itself, and then the full name, as it were, cholecystography and other elements there which would relate to this intervention. We have the comparison, again, ultrasound, or it could be ultrasonography, could be sonogram, sonograph, etc. And we have the outcome, which again could be diagnosis or assessment or screening even. So those terms in italics and lowercase are the initial free text search terms that we're going to look at, synonyms, etc. And there may be more. Again, when you're running the search like this, you may have your first iteration of this search, and then as you review the literature, there may be additional terms that you are made aware of. Of course, you may be expert in this field, and you'll know more from the outset. Then there are the mesh terms below in uppercase characters. So gallbladder diseases is a mesh term. Intervention, that was quite a challenging one to find. Technetium TCA 99M disophenin. So that's the radiopharmaceutical that relates to HIDA scan. Comparison, ultrasonography interventional, and then outcome, things like mass screening, diagnosis itself, diagnostic techniques and procedures, early diagnosis, misdiagnosis, delayed diagnosis. Okay, so obviously when you first run the search like this, you will not necessarily know what are the preferred mesh terms. So you would have to explore the database, browse the source to identify what they are. So I've got this nicely laid out table already prepared, if you like, to give me, the search terms, which I can then construct my search strategy. So you will not necessarily know what those index terms are until you start searching. But I want to just illustrate the principles here of identifying free text keyword search terms along with the mesh headings as well. Now, the third aspect of devising your strategy, we're looking at the searching for concepts one at a time. And here we are actually looking at the title analytics searching on the EBSCO's interface, and you can see how it currently is rendered. So basically, on the current interface that we have, you have the advanced search page, which I've got displayed here in the screenshot, and we've entered the terms twice so that we can search title and abstract simultaneously. Okay, you may be aware there's a new interface coming that's on an ongoing development at this time, so that will be available early next year. Some may have already switched to it, but most healthcare organizations will not be going onto it until early next year. So I say that because there will be some changes, but right now, in terms of the live interface that you're using, this is the way you would search for title and abstract. And you can see, of course, the command line query. So once you run that search, as shown on this screenshot, it will be displayed in the search history as you see in the command line query. That means essentially you could create this title abstract search offline in a Word document, for example, cut and paste it into the search box and run it in that way. Okay, so just to illustrate there, this is the simultaneous title abstract searching currently on the existing interface. The second, of course, of this is to look at the subject headings, the mesh terms, and you'll see there highlighted, there's the Mesh 2024 link on the toolbar. So anyone who subscribes to MEDLINE has access to MEDLINE, whether it's the basic version, which is available nationally in England, whether it's MEDLINE Ultimate, if you subscribe to that version, or MEDLINE Complete. It will have the same link there to the subject headings, the thesaurus that you can then browse for the appropriate subject headings. Alternatively, and for a number of you already have this software mapping embedded in your advanced search page or basic search screen. So you have the suggested terms software mapping, and that basically is a prompt to direct users to make use of the index terms. So if you enter a term like gallbladder disease or gallbladder dysfunction, and you have suggested terms selected, it would map you to the mesh term gallbladder diseases, and then you can select it. It is possible to select both the keyword search term and the heading simultaneously, but in this example, in this particular webinar, we are focusing on title abstract searching, so I can explain that a bit more. But one thing to know, if you do not see that option available currently within your implementation of MEDLINE on EBSCOhost, then that is a feature that can be enabled for you. So it's enabled in EBSCO Admin, our administrative tool, which you can access through eadmin.ebscohost.com. It can be defaulted to on or off. So in other words, you can either manually select it and be directed to the preferred mesh term, or it can be on automatically. So when you click search, you'll be taken straight to the mesh thesaurus. Okay, so we'll have a look at that live in a moment. The next thing I wanted to cover here is the matter of the wildcards on EBSCOhost. So it's important to use the appropriate syntax for this particular interface. You may be familiar with other platforms from other providers, and they have a slightly different rendering of these symbols, etc. So for EBSCOhost, you have the truncation symbol, the star, the asterisk, and that allows you to search for words with multiple endings like physiology, physiological, physiologies, etc. And if you place the star, the asterisk after the L, you'll find all three variations. If you also want to search for words or phrases which could include other terms, so example here of the condition ventilator pneumonia, it could be ventilator-associated pneumonia or ventilator-acquired pneumonia. So if you replace the asterisk between ventilator and pneumonia, you'll find all three sets of terms. Okay, so you can see the example then of what it will find. You can use double quotation marks for exact phrase searching. And as you see here with the example of influenza vaccine, it will find at least one occurrence of the exact phrase influenza vaccine. Okay, you will find with the interface, as you may have noted in previous usage of it, whether you're using CINAHL, MEDLINE, or other databases on EBSCOhost, your keyword search terms are typically in bold in any case. So you will see influenza in bold, you'll see vaccine in bold, but there will be at least one occurrence on an exact phrase in the record somewhere. The wildcard is the question mark there, so that replaces a single or unknown character. If you're looking for organization with both spellings, then you can replace the S and the Z. If you're looking for woman or women in terms of gender for that research, then you can replace the A or the E there. You can use alternate spelling as well. So you have the hash wildcard, which my US colleagues refer to as the pound sign. So please don't confirm that with pound sterling. I did see a help sheet that actually had literally the pound sterling sign as the hash wildcard, and that's probably it's a spell check issue or whatever it might be, but pound sign in the US is actually referring to the hash wildcard that you see there. Okay, so if you're looking for pediatrics for the UK and US or British English, American English, then you can use the hash wildcard after the P before the E to find both variations. Likewise with color and words like behavior, we have OR in the US, we have OUR in the UK, then you can replace or add the hash wildcard after the O before the R to find both variations. You can combine the hash wildcard with the truncation. So if you're again looking at pediatric as well as pediatrics, pediatrician and pediatricians, then you can of course use the hash wildcard for pediatric and truncate it using the asterisk as well. And finally, probably less like to be used, but again, there's another option there to find words with exactly one character at the end. If you add the hash wildcard and the question mark after monkey, for example, that would find monkeys, not monkey. Okay, so just an example, especially if you're looking at library search. Okay, so again, it's just a sampling of the kind of syntax that we use on the EBSCO interface. So before we go to the live demonstration, which we'll go to very shortly, just to also clarify the use of proximity search operators, near and within, that we use for this platform. So near, and some of you may have heard this before in other sessions that I run, but near finds words if they're within a specified word range or less of one another, regardless of the order in which they appear. So if we take the example of the condition that we're looking at in today's systematic search, you've got gallbladder N2 dysfunction. Now I've truncated dysfunction to include dysfunctional as well. So essentially what you're doing here, when it says N2, that's near 2 words or less. So in other words, you'll find results which have gallbladder dysfunction as well as dysfunctional gallbladder or dysfunction of the gallbladder. Okay, but there has to be 2 words or less. So I might have to modify that to N3, for example. Then there's the within operator. So this is more restrictive because it finds words, again, within a specified word range or less of one another, but in the order in which you entered them. So using the same condition, if you put gallbladder W2 dysfunction, it would literally find gallbladder dysfunction, as it were, as opposed to dysfunction of the gallbladder or dysfunctional gallbladder. Okay, so again, the first one, the near operator, may be used more widely because it's broader in scope, okay, and accounts for words appearing in any order. And then finally here, multiple terms can be used on either side of the operator. So if we look at statins and heart attack, heart disease, we can use heart attack or myocardial function in parentheses. And for statins, that means you'll find heart attack and statins and heart attack, likewise myocardial function, statins and myocardial infarction. Okay, N4 being 4 words or less. So key thing to know about the numbers here, compared to other platforms, the number is literal. So again, N2 means 2 words or less, N4 means 4 words or less. Other providers may have ADJ, and it may be ADJ2. That might mean 1 word or less. ADJ4, adjacency 4, maybe 3 words or less. And I can verify that if you need more information on that. In fact, this is something, I know we have some perhaps from the Nordics area. When I was on site in Sweden a number of years ago, one of the information specialists highlighted this, the comparison between the EBSCO syntax and another provider. So this is something which we're aware of. Okay, so the key thing is that you're using the EBSCO syntax when searching. So that is kind of the background to this process, etc., if you like. So we will now run the live demonstration based on our search question. So I'm going to go now and switch to my live demo. And as before, please post any comments, questions, feedback in the Teams chat. If you need me to clarify anything, then please do let me know. And if you need me to unmute you, I can use the raise hand icon and I can do so. So let me now switch to my desktop, and in a moment you should see the advanced search page and we can begin our search. So the first thing, of course, is that we're looking at gallbladder surgery, gallbladder, etc. Let me do that now. So I'm going to go to gallbladder, okay, N2, dysfunction. Okay, and I can also truncate, I can also add or gallbladder diseases. Again, I can do the same thing here, disease, okay, and so on. So again, N2 means 2 words or less in any of those words or in any order, etc. Okay, so I can run a search for this. I can also copy this across. Okay, so make sure I'm going to get the whole string here. So copy this. Okay, and I can paste it in the row below. As remember, we're going to be searching title and abstract search simultaneously, so I can click from the drop down select field option there and choose the title. Okay, and then AB for abstract. So I'm searching these terms in terms of the title abstract within records indexed on MEDLINE. Okay, so we're going to go and run that now. Okay. So we've got those there, and then we're also looking at the intervention today as well. So we're going to start with the HIDA scan. So I'm going to do that as a phrase search, I think in this case, HIDA scan. Okay. And then I'm also going to pick up the full name, if you like, of this. So bear with me. I'm going to fact or, and I'll use this as truncation. Sorry, the double quotation marks as well. Capital biliary. Okay, immunodiesetic. Okay, it's a bit of a mouthful. This one, acid scan. Okay, so I can add this. I can also add cholecystography. Sytematic. Okay, or another phrase here. Double quotation marks. Okay, syntography. Okay, so I can use that as well. And one thing to know, although I'm going to do this now quite quickly, if you spot any mistakes, please do let me know, but I will show you how you can edit these search strings if you've run them already. So I'll select title again from the drop-down list of field codes for Medline, and then abstract. So I'll just double check here. I think that's looks good. So I'm going to click search here. So this is the, in fact, let me just come back here. Apologies. I should have actually, as you probably would aware, I should have looked at the mesh search. So I am going to do that now. So as I mentioned, you can search for the subject heading in one of two ways. The first way, which all of you have access to, is mesh 2024 link there. And then you can, for example, put in gallbladder dysfunction. Okay. And you'll see here we've got on this list of mesh terms gallbladder diseases. And if you follow the blue line across and go to the scope note, you can see what it's used for. So basically, disease of the gallbladder, okay, which relates to gallbladder dysfunction as well. Okay, the explode option is on. That indicates that we're not only selecting results indexed with this term, but other terms as well. So if we click on gallbladder diseases here, it's also going to include cholecystitis and other terms there as well, which are related. Again, you can check the scope note to see whether or not they are pertinent or otherwise. Okay, so these are relevant. So this is the mesh hierarchy. Obviously, gallbladder diseases comes under biliary tract diseases, which sits under digestive system diseases. Okay, so we've got that selected. We can go back to the term list, and then we can now run that search here. So I think we're satisfied that is the mesh search that we'll be running. Okay. And then this is where I wanted to combine the two sets. So basically we've run the first one at PICO, the problem, the patient, those at high risk of gallbladder dysfunction or disease. So we can select these two terms and combine them with the Boolean OR. Okay, so click OR, search with OR, and we group them together. Okay. Now you'll notice from the outset, the search history is displayed in reverse chronological order formats, which means that obviously you're seeing where you finished up, but you're not seeing the sequence that you started from. It's in reverse order. So if, again, as we want to reproduce the search at some point, make it more transparent, then click search ID and hash above the set number, and then you'll see it's now S1, S2, S3. So you can see where we are, and we've completed the first element of PICO, which is the problem, the patient, etc., the population group. In other words, those at risk of gallbladder disease, dysfunction, and so on. Okay. So now I've done that, I can then go back into my intervention, which, as I said, was HIDA scan. I'll use double quotation marks for this. Okay, as I indicated previously. I'll also add the other terms as well. So, and I will also put them in double quotation marks to make sure we're not going too far in terms of finding too much information. We just want to find what's out there, as it were, and be as accurate as possible. So immunodiesetic, acid scan, okay, and then also cholecystography. Okay, tintography, okay, and then or hepatobiliary, syntography. Okay, So we've done that, not the question mark. Can double check if it's correctly spelt. Looks good. I'll copy this across, paste it below, choose the Boolean OR here, and again, the title. So it's the title search for this intervention for PICO, and then the AB here, and then run the search. So as I'm doing that, I'll just show you in the search history. If you do spot errors, obviously let me know, but you can make changes on the fly, as it were. So you can see S4 here. If you go to the right, click edit. If there are any typos here, we can change it, this set alone, right? S4. We don't need about worry about running the other elements. It will just adjust once we save that. Okay, just to point that out to you, you can go to any one of these sets and make an adjustment to it. So if it's a typo, you can make changes to it. But of course, the next element is the HIDA scan, the equivalent for the mesh terms. So again, you can go to mesh 2024, or you can make use of statistic terms. Now, if I do this, and what I'm going to do to save time here, I'm going to just cut and paste this phrase here, and then paste it in here and see what we come up with, right? So this is the scan thing. So click search here. And at the moment, you can see here, it's not giving us much information. We're not absolutely clear exactly what we should be using here. We'll just get the scope note here. Well, this one could be useful because it's one I've used before. Okay, so it's used in the clinical evaluation of hepatobiliary disorders in humans. So it's very pharmaceutical. And I know there's another one, which I mentioned earlier, based on previous searching. So again, we've included this one. It's there on the right in the box they're provided. If you scroll down, you may see others that are recommended or used. So there are number ones, number there that are listed. But we've also got the option to use the other ones. So what I'm going to do here is going to browse additional terms, and I am actually going to go to enter this one. So again, this took some time to find, to be honest, and it may be the case for yourselves. And again, you'll be consulting the original requester of the search for more information, as they are most likely to be experts in their field, as it were. And so you can see here we've got technetium, TCE, 99M, disulfiram. This is one I saw earlier. We could check if there's any others here that would be of relevance here. Again, probably not. This may be, yeah. So again, this would be a case of consulting more with the original requester or team that requesting this search to get more information as to the kind of elements. In this case, these are radiopharmaceuticals that relate to HIDA scan. And you'll notice in this, with these terms, if you follow the blue line, this box is grayed out. There are no related headings that we could be using. This is a single index term. And notice also the subheadings are included, all included by default. So for example, you can see pharmacology there. Let's see, chemical synthesis and so on. So these elements are actually qualifiers for that subject heading. So if you wanted to focus on certain aspects of this subject, then you could do so. But we are looking at a more systematic literature search. We are not going to focus at that level at this time because we are going to combine it with other searches. And also, again, you'll see history notes below, what was used previously, and also what this is used for. Okay, so again, it's worth consulting that column for more information. So we have the two radiopharmaceuticals that relate to the HIDA scan that are now collated here on the box on the right, and they're going to be combined with the Boolean OR. So anything indexed with the first one or the second one will be retrieved. So we're now going to run the search here. And okay, so I've seen a comment here, S1TINAB. Sorry. I just saw a comment there from Stephen. Don't think you want to clarify that. S1TINAB. Ah, yes, well spotted. Very good. Yeah, I didn't change the Boolean operator. Well spotted. So Stephen's correct in saying I've combined them using Boolean and here, not or. So I can go in here and I can edit that. So just replace the Boolean operator. Sorry to auto realize what you're saying there, but it's actually or. So yeah, hence the low number. So if we click save now, we should end up with a lot more results. Yes. Yeah, I did one when I first did this. I was a bit mystified that I wasn't picking up that much, but thank you for pointing that out. So Appreciate your watching that. So again, and you can see how easy it is to change it, even in an error like this. Okay, so I can double check the others as well, making sure I am choosing the Boolean operator there. So with, again, just to illustrate S4 and S5, I would use the Boolean or here, search with or here, okay, not and as I did earlier. So my mistake. So search with or. Okay, so that's the intervention element of PICO, right? The HIDA scan and the related, in this case, radiopharmaceuticals. So we've got the first two elements done, halfway through, if you like. And then, of course, we are looking at ultrasound, ultrasonography, etc. So again, we can begin our keyword searching, our todographic searching with ultrasound, and we can use truncation here. Okay, so we can do this for ultrasonography, ultrasound, etc. Okay, we can also add or sonogram or sonography or sonograph, so we can truncate that as well. Okay, so we can just truncate this with the asterisk. So ultrasound or ultrasonography, sonogram or sonograph or sonography. Again, choose title and then AB, and then we'll copy this below, select the Boolean or, and then run the search here. So that is, again, the keyword freetext search for the title and abstract. And now we're going to look at the equivalent mesh terms. So for this one, if I type in ultrasound or sonogram, perhaps, okay, just for now, and map to the source, to the mesh 2024 terms by using suggested terms here, click search, and you'll see here, let's see, we've got, in fact, we've got ultrasonography here, okay. And if you follow the blue line across, you'll see the scope note again, okay. So we've got that term. Now, there is another one that we could be using, which I'm aware of as well. So that is ultrasonography interventional. So we can click browse additional terms here. And if we just put ultrasound, I think this might pick up this time. Let's see, yes, interventional. Okay. So I guess in our cases, it may be just better to browse for a single term rather than multiple terms. But as you see here now, both terms, ultrasonography and ultrasonography interventional, are both selected. I've selected both terms. And if you go to the scope note for ultrasonography, you'll see it relates to the use of ultrasound, of course. And if you check the notes below, you'll see that this term is used for ultrasound here. So ultrasound does not have a specific subject heading within MESH. So MESH terms coming from the National Library of Medicine, but ultrasonography is the term we use, as well as ultrasonography interventional. So again, you can see these are exploded. So if I click ultrasonography here and follow it through, you'll see, in fact, it does include their ultrasonography interventional as well. Okay, so we may not even need to select that, but we'll leave it as it is right now. Okay, so click search database to retrieve those records indexed with those terms. And then, of course, what we'll do is combine the two. So S7, S8, this relates to the comparison for PICO, and then we'll search with OR here. So the final element, as you might guess, is relates to diagnosis, diagnostic, etc. So again, for this, we're going to add some of the syntax here. So for example, we can have diagnosis or gnosis or diagnostic. We can add assessment or assessed. So I can truncate this. So this will be assess, assessed, assessment, assessing, and also screening. So screen, screening, etc. So again, we can truncate those three terms. Okay, we can copy these, paste below, make sure we got the Boolean or again, choose title from the abstract field, sorry, title from the field codes, and then the AB from the field codes here, the drop down. So again, you know, and again, I'm not saying this is exhaustive. You may consider other terms as well, other expressions, but just to illustrate the approach I'm taking in this systematic literature search, and then click search here. Okay, and you'll see the sytematic search for diagnosis here. So this is in a sense, the first part of the final element, the outcome element of PICO, the clinical framework, and then we'll look at the equivalent subject headings. So again, if I put in diagnosis, okay, I can select suggested terms, click search, and you'll see we've got diagnosis here, diagnostic techniques, procedures, delayed diagnosis, and so on. So again, if you double check which ones are going to be selected when you explode the term, just go to diagnosis here, and you'll see some of these are mentioned here. So early diagnosis is mentioned, diagnostic errors, delayed diagnosis as well. Okay, so I think those will all be included. So if you click the subheading here, or the scope note, sorry, you'll see up there. Okay, so, and then we also want assessment as well. So go back to the term list. So if we go to, and by the way, just to point out to you, some of you may have picked this up and used this before, you will see the keyword search is also included, could be included as well. So this is where you're going to go beyond the title object search, just run a general keyword search, free text search within MEDLINE. So if you selected this one and the subheading, you'll see both grouped together with the Boolean or on the right there. So you'll be searching for any content index with diagnosis and related headings combined with the word diagnosis as it appears within the fields of a record within MEDLINE. So I'm not doing it this way today because I'm focusing on title object searching, so I will remove that, but I will browse for additional terms, for example, assessment or screening. Okay. And what you'll see here, we do have some terms related to assessment, but not necessarily related to this topic, but we have mass screening here. And if you follow the blue line across again to the scope note, you'll see what this relates to. Okay. So the other terms may not be of relevance here. And we have already explored or run a search for title abstract. And again, you can check the history notes, the scope note, the notes below, etc. So we can search the database with these headings. Okay. And then we can combine the two. So we've got millions of records for both for diagnosis, diagnostic, etc., assessment, screening, but we are going to combine these two, and also ultimately we're going to combine them with the other sets as well. So although the numbers are huge, they will narrow down considerably once we combine all these elements. So I'm going to double check based on my previous error that I've got the right combinations here. So we've got title object searching for gallbladder disease dysfunction with the mesh search, which you can see prefixed by MH for an exact mesh subject heading. We've got S3 therefore for the first element of PICO, the problem or patient group. Then we've got HIDA scan as the intervention, which is S4, S5. And then we've got the third element there, which is ultrasound or sonography, which is S7, the title object search combined with S8, the subject search. Again, MH is featured there. The plus sign indicates the term has been exploded. And then we've got the final set, which is what we just looked at, relating to diagnosis, diagnostic, assessment, screening, etc. The title object search combined with the mesh term diagnosis, which has been exploded, along with mass screening. So we're grouping these together now. Okay, so we've got 4 elements there, and then we'll search with and to retrieve records where all 4 elements should appear in the record in some way. So let's go and scroll down. So we've got 179 references here, as you see. Now, by default on MEDLINE, and I'm sure this is the case for most of you who work in healthcare, the results are displayed in the most recent first in chronological order. So you'll see the latest research here. This one, of course, which is an American family physician, is published in June of this year. Happens to have also full text as well. If you want to see the most relevant, then just click on the link or the drop down there and choose relevance here, and that'll be based on the indexing of content along with the words appearing in the title and the abstract. So if you scroll down now, you'll see this one I think appeared second or third in that list. So you see we now have a meta-analysis of the performance of ultrasound, etc., in the diagnosis of acute cholecystitis. So again, this could be a good article to refer to, obviously published quite recently in February of this year. So we can explore the content we found already We may need to, of course, adjust the results to a particular time frame. So we have results, for example, published since 1978. That may be too far. If we're looking at the last, say, 10 years, then we can just drag this across and we'll go for 2014. Okay, and release. And we've reduced our number to 27 records. So since 2014. And again, we have the same record at the top of the list, the most relevant record here. You can view the abstract by the magnifying glass there. If there's one, just a short abstract there. And you can also click through to the actual reference here. So this will give you clues. I mean, you can use the snowball technique and look at other articles by the same author. You can see this is published in Abdominal Radiology. You can look at the mesh terms that are used. Maybe there's some that we didn't use that we could be using in a future iteration of this search. And then you have the complete abstract there with the purpose, methods, results, conclusion, etc. Okay, as you can see. And there's also additional references which could be of interest as well. Okay, so you can see those listed below. And of course, you can go through the process. I won't go through all the details here because we do cover this in other sessions, but you can, of course, save this to OneDrive. You can add it to your folder. You can print or email this reference if you want to share it with a colleague or healthcare professional, whoever you're running the search for. The cite tool is also available there to guide you and guide your users how to cite this in the preferred reference style. And you can export this as well to EndNote, Reference Manager, Zotero, etc. If you're in academia, we support BibText. You've got EndNote Web, which is the equivalent to EndNote Online, and RefWorks also featured there as well. Okay, so I won't cover all these elements because we do cover them in other sessions that would also be appropriate to this one. Okay, so just to clarify then, let's see. Okay. So we've got our search history displayed there, of course. Again, if you were to spot any errors, you can go to the edit column there and make changes to it. But the bottom line here is also you review the search and identify a key article, and then you can go into it. Now, also item 2 has full text. So not only can you go into the record itself, you can actually view the full text record either in HTML, as you see here, and you can jump to various sections, etc. Explore that online. The translation option, if English is not your first language, by the way, you can translate this into another language. As you see here, for example, let's see, this is probably by Microsoft, by the way. I'm not sure that actually, I guess they wouldn't be listed alphabetically because that defeats the object of it being in other languages. But you can see here, we've got other languages here. For example, there is some Spanish here, Finnish here, etc., French, and so on. Okay, so you can translate that if you prefer. If you have another non-English article, for example, you can translate it into your native language as needed. And of course, we have the PDF full text here as well. So again, you can view that online. It's an English language article, but as you can see here, and you can consult that, and then you can also check the references here as well if needed. So you can download or print or email, etc. as well. Okay, so that's also available within this list, as it were. Okay, so that's available. So you will see a quantity of full text. Obviously, if you have the likes of MEDLINE Ultimate, MEDLINE Complete, you will see more full text documentation available. Also, because of our smart linking feature, if you subscribe to other versions of CINAHL, for example, higher-end versions with more full text, if the same journal is indexed in MEDLINE, then you will get those full text links if it's a full text journal within CINAHL Ultimate or other versions of CINAHL. So again, you could scroll through and review the content here. So what I want to do at this stage is just jump back to the PowerPoint and making sure we have enough time to cover the rest of the session. So I'm going to stop sharing here and go back to the PowerPoint. We've also gone through a live demonstration of the search question. And this is an example of the search I performed previously. So you've got the P for PICO there. This is the PICO element related to gallbladder disease dysfunction. We've also got the intervention there, which we've covered, and also the comparison with ultrasound or sonography. And also we have the outcome, which relates to diagnostic procedures, diagnosis, etc., and so on. And then we've combined them. Okay. So again, just an illustration of how you can identify the various elements of PICO within the search. And by the way, you can have the search sent as a table like this into your inbox. So I'll just show you how to do that in a moment. And what you do, this was the one I did earlier, but you would find, as we talked about online just now, there is, once you've found a series of articles that are relevant, then you can explore the abstract, if you like, for additional terms that would help you, review a future search, as it were, in rerunning this systematic literature search. So I will come back to the matter of searching, or including the search history in a moment. But just to add, there is a search strategy that's been designed by the Erasmus Centre in the Netherlands, that I attended a session a number of years ago at EHIL in Edinburgh, and so you may have been there. And it was developed by Wickle Brammer and his colleagues. And they came up with this search strategy to improve efficiency and confidence in systematic literature searching. So basically, there's a document there which outlines the steps to create essentially 2 lines of searching here, which combines subject searching with title object searching, and of course, incorporating the various syntax there as well. Now, you may notice that SU is used for the subject search. SU is a generic way of searching subject terms, especially if you don't know what the definitive mesh heading is. So for those who have the EBSCO Discovery Service, for example, NHS England, they have the Knowledge and Library Hub, which is the Discovery Service. SU will be an ideal way of searching because you're searching multiple indexes at the same time. So if you were to cross-search Synonym or MEDLINE, for example, then you could use SU because there are distinctions between the 2 indexes. However, you could, of course, run this session with MH as the preferred field code for subject searching, which is more accurate. Okay, so SU is basically searching the subject fields, but word indexed as opposed to phrased indexed. So this is where you may not know the actual terms used by indexers that are available. We've got TI and AB for title object searching there. We've got truncation. We've got the use of the precision or the proximity operators N3, so N 3 words or less. And we've also got the incorporation of the wildcard, the question mark. So if you're searching for cost benefit analysis and analyses, you only need to enter it once. You replace the E and the I there. Okay. So again, it's worth consulting that document. You can create your own searches that way if you feel free to use that. Now, I will add also, we do have support documentation for using MEDLINE on EBSCOhost, and you can see an example here of the shortcuts for MEDLINE. So it'll give you the description of what you're doing and the actual syntax you use as well. We do have a comparison also with Ovid and with ProQuest as well. So if you use those other interfaces or have used them, or you're transitioning to EBSCOhost, then you can see a direct comparison of how to search. Okay, so those are available on our EBSCO Connect site. So again, this is the one comparing the syntax for EBSCOhost with the ProQuest version of MEDLINE. So it allows you to translate the searches accordingly, especially if you're presented with something which a user's done on another provider platform. So before I go into look at training support and take any more questions as well or comments, I would just mention the search and sharing the search. So if we go back to my desktop here, and with the search here, you can of course print the search history. You've got that link above the search history here. You can see the search history laid out here. If you right click, you can print. You can save it as a PDF, by the way, of course, directly through your print manager window, or you can simply send it to your printer. And of course, you can change the layout to portrait if you prefer. You can change it to color if you prefer as well. So again, you have the option to print a copy or save as a PDF as needed as a record. Alternatively, you can send it as a table that will be received in your inbox. So you can go into share above the result list. You can save these results here. And then if you go to the folder view, you'll see the results are now stored here. So along with saving or sending these records, if you click email, you'll see the current search history can be included here along with the PDF and HTML content as well. So that means that you'll receive an attached file, an HTML file detailing that search history in the format that you saw on the slide deck just now. Okay, so that'll send you a copy. And I've had librarians send me copies of search histories to explore, to review, based using that approach as well. So if you want to share it with a colleague or an end user, or even myself, then you can send it in that way. Okay, so you can include this current search history, and of course you can include the appropriate citation format for any articles that are sent along with this. So you just essentially just enter your email address and then send. And you can also remove these items from the folder after emailing. So if I click send here, I get confirmation on screen, and now this is blank because those results have been sent through. Okay, so just to clarify that approach. Okay, there is an online help menu, by the way, on the top right toolbar. I'm sure some of you have explored this before. This is generic to all EBSCO databases, but if you want, so you have got reference to the Advanced Search Guided Style page. You've got use of references to proximity searching here. Also the use of wildcards and truncation with more examples. So example matches there. More information about printing, emailing, etc. And then you've also got the database specific help for MEDLINE. So again, if you want more information on MEDLINE or the searchable fields that are used, you can see that here. There's AB word indexed. If I scroll down, as I mentioned, SU and MH, if you scroll down here, you'll see MH is exact subheading, phrase index, and it searches major and minor mesh terms, etc. Okay, and you see examples how to use this. We saw that in the search history. And if you scroll down, we also have SU, which in contrast is word indexed. Okay, so it does search words in the mesh terms field as well as keywords in the contributed indexing field. If you want to know what those are, then scroll down further and you'll see this listed. These are listed here. Okay, so the key thing though, mesh is where you have the exact heading. SU is searching within the mesh terms, but it's not looking specifically for an exact heading, as it were. Okay, so I'm going to move back now to my PowerPoint. Okay, so we looked at the transition help sheets there. And then in terms of other training support, we have the Healthcare Training Resources Portal. So you have that available at nhsresources.stacksdiscovery.com. So it's built on our Stacks content management solution. And that features training videos, which is the EBSCO UK YouTube channel, training sessions, which are upcoming events that I run. These are also available through Calendly. Support information, which is the EBSCO Connect support site, and there are the links there too, include for those who are based in England, NHS training, also EBSCO Academy, our learning management system, and EBSCO Connect again, and promotional materials for MEDLINE, CINO, and other databases. We do have within this portal a reference to not only resource materials, but also search filters. For those who are curious, we have collated some search filters here, and that includes one on face masks in relation to COVID-19 and MEDLINE. This was a 64-line search strategy that myself and a colleague in Germany created on behalf of an account, so that it can be displayed, can be viewed there through this portal if you're interested there. So I mentioned the training videos. This is the EBSCO UK training portal. So these are basically English language sessions, most of which I run, some from other colleagues as well, on products other than the medical databases, if you like, but this, along with others, will be hosted there post-session once they've been edited. Okay, so I typically send a link direct to the video for the session that you were on, but you can explore this in your own time for more webinar recordings. And EBSCO Connect, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, again, links you to the learning management system EBSCO Academy, which will provide you with additional training materials, including recordings, our e-learning paths, and additional instructor-led sessions, which are hosted typically on Zoom, unlike this one on Teams. So we do have the session that's available for MEDLINE, so the e-learning path, which is self-paced, complimentary training, as it were. So you can take that in your own time. As you click through, you can select which courses which will be most relevant to yourself, and then you can register for these. So you do need to register for these sessions, and that means you need an EBSCO Connect account, which you can request via the sign-in option on the top right there of the screen. Okay, so I have incorporated some of the key documents in the PowerPoint, so we'll get a copy of this. And we also have, of course, these key points to take home with you. So use PICO or other frameworks to construct search queries. Again, you've seen some examples of others that may be more relevant to you. Search using free text, combining dynamic searching with the medical headings. Always make sure you use the EBSCO syntax for MEDLINE, EBSCOhost, and you see there a comparison with other platforms, and you can find more information on the Healthcare Training Resources portal that we provide. Okay, so I know we're out of time now, but I can stay a bit longer for any questions, if there are any, or any comments that you have about systematic literature searching on MEDLINE on EBSCOhost. So are there any comments, questions, or feedback at this time before we leave? Any comments, questions, or feedback in relation to searching on EBSCOhost? I appreciate Stephen's earlier correction to my search to ensure that the results were accurate. So I'm happy to conclude there. Again, you can contact me at iquicksedesco.com, which I mentioned earlier in the session, but I do appreciate your time today, and hope that's been helpful and will be useful for future searching on MEDLINE on EBSCOhost. Thank you.